Welcome back. Because a competition is being hosted here this coming weekend, we didn't have any major jobs going on, but we did get the Honda Civic finished up. We had a window regulator issue that came in that we had to take care of. Duramax diesel came back for a brief exhaust repair, and we're going to find out if we actually got the engine back into the 48 frame. Thanks for tuning in. I'm here with three of our Skills USA competitors.
I'm Noemi Lira.
I'm Blake Butler.
I'm Jesse Rodriguez.
These three will be competing this Saturday in an automotive competition, and we will have the results of that competition for you next week. This vehicle came in with a power window issue. You can hear the clicking as it's trying to go up. It will not return all the way. With the door panel out of the way, we're removing the window motor. Clearly something is broke or stripped inside this assembly.
It's going there. Okay.
With all the bolts in, the motor gets torqued to 60 inch-pounds. Now the window is functioning as it should. Next, the door panel goes back on. As you recall, last week we had a broken fastener in our Civic engine for the tensioner. Here we have the new thread insert installed and we're ready to reassemble it. Interesting note here about the tensioner for the Honda Civic. When I went to put this piece on, I noticed a puddle of oil underneath the shock. So pulling the seal back, I could see it was leaking pretty badly. So I'm putting a new one on it. Now I'm kind of curious, did the fact that the oil was leaking out of it, had it seized, and maybe that's what sheared that bolt. I'm not sure, I don't think we'll get to the bottom of that. But we'll be putting a new one on nonetheless. There's our new tensioner installed, pivoting like it should, and our new shock that'll get attached to the bottom of the alternator. Next, we're going to put the water pump pulley on. With the balancer on and the engine mount back in place, we're going to put the alternator back on, put the belt on, and we're just about ready to wrap it up. Eric's got these caliper pieces painted and looking good. Now we're ready to put it back together. First, he lubricates the square cut O-ring with brake fluid. Then it gets installed into position, and then the piston will go in. Here he's applying brake fluid to the piston before installing the dust shield. Now he's doing the same thing to the outboard side. Here Eric's putting in the O-ring for the crossover passage. Then the inboard piston assembly goes on and is bolted in place. Then the bleeder screw with its new dust cover goes on and it's ready to put back onto the bike. Because of the EGR delete on the Duramax and this flexible tube and nothing to support this, the vibration caused it to bust open. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a cut here, and then we're going to weld a cap on it, and then that'll get rid of all of this, and we shouldn't have that problem again. With that piece cut off and our patch made, we're going to weld it 4 sides, and we're going to grind the corners down, and then we'll knead it up by welding all the way around. We got the cap welded on, we smoke tested it, seems to be tight, so now we're going to put it back onto the truck. You can't really see the repair that was made, but the leak is gone. We're converting the bearings on this trailer from its oil bath design to a regular greased bearing type. First step is to get it apart. The reason for doing this is that they commonly leak, and you'll notice right away that no gear oil is flowing from it. Here he's washing down all the gear oil from the brake assembly from where it was leaking. Now we'll get the bearings cleaned up and dried before putting in fresh grease. He got ahead of me before filming, but the bearings are in with a new seal, and now the assembly goes back together. We'll get the bearing adjusted and the lock and the cat back in place, and this trailer is ready for the road. The students are getting the engine positioned back over the frame and carefully lowering it down. The lock collar gets pushed back onto the tube that we sanded. Then the tube can go back onto the shaft. Here they're lining up the splines between the transmission and the torque tube.
Back. Slow, slow. Slowly. That's good. Yeah, let's.
Good, put the other one in.
Yep.
The students are getting all the gasket surfaces cleaned before prepping the head for paint. With all the sides of the cylinder head cleaned up for the 48 Chevy, we just need to put a straight edge on it to make sure it's flat, get this thing painted, we'll be ready to torque the head on next week. Next time on Bulldog Builds, we'll get the master cylinder from the rear of that Z1R apart and cleaned up. We'll get the head finished up and prepped for paint and ready to put on the engine. And we'll let you know how our 3 Skills USA students fared in the competition. See you next week.